To you on this 21st of September. Isn't there a song about that? Do you remember? I saw that going around Twitter today, and I didn't even think twice about it, but I'm glad I was reminded about it. A's and Mariners, game 2 of this series. Yeah, last night was disappointing. A 5-game win streak that comes to an end. And for Seattle to score 3 times in the third, kind of just get everything they needed right there. A's were playing an uphill battle the rest of the way. And Oakland responding in the third with 1 run. They also got 1 more run last night in the 8th. But in both of those innings, multiple opportunities to put up crooked numbers, only got those singles. Quite honestly, that was the difference. But here we are now in the bottom of the third. In fact, we're almost through 3, 1 out away for the A's in their third inning at bats. Tied at 1. Matt Olson's 37th bomb on the season. That's awesome. And I'm glad he's keeping pace. It's going to come right down to the end. 12 games, including tonight. So I guess, 11 after tonight. And he needs 3 more to hit 40. I hope that happens. And I get it. That's an individual thing that might be a little bit selfish on my part. Yeah, would I rather have the A's in the playoffs than only get to 40? Of course. Team first. He would say the exact same thing. But, I mean, come on. This is, he's already got the 100 RBI season. He's got a new career high in homers at 37. Let's just get him to 40. What do you say? For the first comment here that says, looks like you're in a jail cell. You okay, Brody? That's Samuel. That's why I put up the GoPro shot over here, so you could kind of get a better sense of where I'm at. That stack of curved flat screen computer monitors, that's still there. Those things are nice. I haven't used one yet because I don't really use like a desk here. I've been hiding in an office for the most part, or up here in the conference room. But the desk that I normally have here in the office got a new one of those. So there you go. Canna, Uber Alice. I always love to see all the Uber Alices in there. Canna above all else, if I'm correct. That's German, right? Canna Uber Alice. I appreciate you being here. I'm right there with you. These are all important games. I mean, you got into tonight, you had 12 left. And it seemed like you had to win 9 or 10 of these dozen to feel really good. Anything less than that, and you're just rolling the dice, taking chances. AJ, no, I actually will not be there tomorrow for Sharks Media Day because of tonight, because of all these baseball games. But we're set. Let's just say we're set. We're going to get some great content tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow actually begins, officially and unofficially, the hockey season. That's not like they're playing a game tomorrow, but Media Day always kicks off training camps, and that's what's happening right now across the league and in San Jose. And there is a lot to figure out for that group. There's no question about that. I mean, I like hearing Dallas in the background. In fact, I normally listen the entire time, but while I'm live streaming, I'm just going to turn it down a tad there so I don't get fully distracted. Puck Guy, good evening. Glad you're here. Glad you got your stunner shades on. Rocio, I've seen your name. Can you, if you're still here on the live chat, can you give me the pronunciation of your name so that I can have a fighting chance? Rocio? Roccio? Rocchio? I apologize, but hello, and thanks for being here. Thoughts on the Bassitt start Thursday? How long will he go? I am so glad you brought that up, Kyle, because that's probably the number one question on everybody's mind. Not only how is the start going to go, but specifically how long will it last? Is there any kind of pitch count he's limited to? Now, there's a lot to think about with Chris Bassitt here. There's a lot of hope to have. And I guess respectfully speaking, I don't sit here and worry about the guy, but I do enjoy watching him as a person, as a ball player, and I'm only concerned for what he's up against, what he's trying to do, how difficult this is. You understand that he got hit with that comebacker August 17th. We right now are 1 month and 4 days removed from that game on the south side of Chicago. That is not a lot of time to come back from facial surgery, all the swelling he had, and now getting the arm from, literally nothing for a couple weeks. Now, I'll get to that in a second. He did do some things, but not being in a game situation for a very long time and jumping right back in to the heat of the A's season, the time and the place they need him most at the tail end of this Seattle series, and that's when he's going to get the call. What I'm hopeful for, and I think you pointed out here, is the length. If Bassitt's out there for 5+ innings, if he's out there for 5 2/3, and I realize if he sees this, he'll be like, 5? I'm going 8 at least. But to the point, length is going to determine how the start went and how much he was able to contribute to this team. Rest the bullpen. You understand that when he starts, it'll be game 4. They'll play the next day and open up a new series against the Houston Astros. In a busy stretch, an important stretch, right, where you need to win all these games, you need to have good outings, but a busy stretch so that any day you don't have to tax the bullpen, you'd much rather not do that. But I'm hopeful because it is Bassitt. He's a warrior. He says and usually does all the right things. I have no reservations about where he's at. I don't think this is an irresponsible thing. I don't think he's too ahead. Of course he's ambitious. Of course he's doing this for his teammates. I love to see it. I think this is a cool story, and I think it's the exclamation point on a cool story if he can go out there on Thursday and have a really good performance and go out and beat the Mariners. Capable. That's what my hope is. I know what he's capable of, and I think he'll deliver on that on Thursday. What am I a bit worried about for him? I mean, there's different things to point at. Let's just go head to toe, literally. The mentals of the last time you were on a mound and a ball came your way. I mean, you don't even remember what happened next. He has said that he doesn't even remember being struck or the 5 minutes after that until he was out in center field on a golf cart getting in an ambulance. So that actually plays in his favor, if true, and if that's accurate what he's saying. You'd rather not remember it. Now, I don't know how he's not seen the video of that sense because it's on social media. It's everywhere. You could easily look for it and find it. I hope it has not come across him if he doesn't want to see it. But the mentals, look, he can get past that soon, but I hope that he doesn't even have to deal with that. That's one thing to think about. I guess secondly is just the facial injury. Now, doctors have looked at him. Doctors have cleared him, but he just had a pretty major surgical procedure on his face to realign some broken bones. I don't know all the inner workings, literally, nor do I think I want to. But I understand and respect how serious this was. And my point is, I'm watching for this, the mentals. I'm watching for this physically. And I think there's a couple other things to consider too. Dave Stewart, when he was here over the weekend, as we kind of got closer to a Bassitt return being imminent, that your arm, it hasn't, Bassitt has been working it out in certain ways, he says. He's been trying to keep, flexibility in the arms and his legs, but those are two parts of the body that if you're not pitching, you get out of that grind, out of that rotation. Very difficult to jump right back in that, in an expeditious fashion. So how are those things going to go? Stu also pointed out, too, the heart rate. Now, that's something I didn't even think about. Not like he's out of shape. Let's not take it to that extent. But again, to go from not being in a major league game for more than a month, it's going to be about 5+ weeks, which is still a crazy short time, but also a long time if you consider the rhythm of, pitching every 5 days to now not pitching in 5 weeks. So I hope all that makes sense of what I just broke down there. I didn't mean to get too negative, right? Because I don't feel negative about this. But I have a lot of hopes, which are pretty straight up and straightforward. I have a lot of worries, which are pretty detailed and specific, and they lead me in a lot of different ways. I hope that we're not talking about any of those worries on Thursday. I would rather this video be completely outdated by Thursday afternoon when he's out there delivering against the Mariners. And let me just say this from a team standpoint. We've talked a lot about the individual part of this, but from the team standpoint, yes, making it easier on the bullpen, important for Bassitt. But also, I kind of like this opportunity he's getting on Thursday, as opposed to being the first starter of a brand new series against Houston. And I'm not saying that Thursday's game is any less important to the A's than Fridays are. They are all that important. But I feel like it's easier to jump in at the end of this series than open a new series against the bats of the Houston Astros of all teams. I'm not going to make all the garbage can jokes. You know what I'm saying. They're a good lineup. I'm not saying Bassitt couldn't handle them. If he's in the rotation, he's going to have to deal with them probably one more time before the regular season is over. So just want to point out all those things. I know that was a lot on Chris Bassitt. Let me close out my Bassitt comments on this. What a story. I should have mentioned this before. The team leader, the Cy Young conversation pitcher, the All-Star for the first time. So many upsides to Chris Bassitt, and now he's adding this chapter to this season. It's an unfortunate chapter. I wish he didn't have to go through any of this. I wish this was not in the book at all, but it happened. There's no changing it. It's amazing how fast he's come back, and I hope, in addition to the results he can provide, whether it's 1 or 2 starts by the end of 162, I hope it's results as a tangible thing, but I hope it's motivation and inspiration to the rest of that clubhouse as one of the biggest intangibles. Okay, that was a lot. I'm gonna use that clip on a different video, but I thought that was important to get out there for sure. And of course, I missed a lot of comments here. We should have a day named after you here in San Jose. Free Brazilian food. I don't know that I've had a Brazilian food specifically. I mean, I think I can kind of imagine what types of food that might consist of, and it's right in my wheelhouse. On the South America theme, one of the best how would I say this, culinary experiences I ever had was our honeymoon in Costa Rica. Ooh, man, that food was good down there. Among all the things I remember from Costa Rica, sights, sound, scenery, honeymoon, great time of life. Food was definitely up there on that trip. No doubt. And the people of Costa Rica, outstanding. Proto S, Sharks, why are you heartbroken about the Sharks? Season hasn't started yet. Look, I understand that this campaign is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, but to me it's clear. Get into the playoffs, take steps forward. We can't sit here and have the same old expectations of this group of every other prior year, Stanley Cup. You can put that in your pocket. That's great. But get to the playoffs, improve this team, turn the ship back in the right direction. So don't be heartbroken. We're not at that point yet. Steel and Steam, what's going on? Is that boats and trains? Or ships and trains, maybe? I like the theme there. I think I'm going to rename my channel. Matthew, what's going on? Thanks for being here. Oh, Rocio might have said something here, and then it says message retracted. Man, I hope I got that one close. Brody in the studio this time. I am, James. I'm here at the headquarters in San Francisco. I'm upstairs in a conference room. I've showed this view before. You may be able to see the big screen, and just in the far end of your screen right now, there's like an 80-inch big screen that I can watch the game on right now. Top 4, 2 out. Mariners just got runners on the corners. So Blackburn's at 70 pitches. And again, look, I was talking about the bullpen for Bassitt. It's important for every starter. Get through 5. I think even having your bullpen in for 4 innings a night, that's more than you'd like, optimally. But this time of year, it's probably something that's a reality that, you got to be realistic about expectations from your starters. Any update on Steven Piscotty? You saw his cheesesteak commercial. You missed the guy, Vince. So he had surgery a couple weeks ago on the wrist, and it's a pretty detailed surgery. I mean, you think about other surgeries you could have. None are minor, don't get me wrong. But the wrist is especially complex with a bunch of moving parts, tendons, bones, veins, everything else. So I actually texted with him a while back. Nothing more than just to say, I wish you well. I hope everything's going good. And I know he's a relatively new dad, so I wanted to wish him, the best and all of that. But he told me that it was kind of a relief to at least get the surgery past him, and hopefully he can move forward and be ready for next season. But he's definitely out for, obviously, the rest of this season. Oh, man, the Mariners are going to score probably 2 here. Fly ball to left field. Canha chased it down the best he could, but at the warning track, couldn't catch it. Just like that. Mariners up 3-1 here in the 4th with 2 outs. But that's the thing about the A's and Mariners in this series, and I do realize that Oakland is 4-9 against Seattle this year. It has felt one-sided. It definitely is one-sided in those results. But you can't look at this game right now and say 3-1, that's it. Like, the A's need to be able to score more than 1 run, and they need to know that, even halfway through a game, they're capable of scoring 5 or 6 more. So, yeah, that was an unfortunate play there in left, especially with 2 outs. It's one of those things where if Canha is able to get to it, end of the inning, huge sigh of relief. But now you're trailing by 2 and a runner on third. And guess what? Single up the middle. A's were defensively shifted. 4-1. Wow. It happened that fast. Crawford went right back up the middle. All right, so the A's are down by 3, kind of like they were yesterday for a lot of that game. Emmanuel, you're from Argentina and you're watching. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to put your comment on the screen here. You're from Argentina watching the stream and the A's at the same time. This is more dramatic than watching soccer games here. Emmanuel, there is something about, how should I say this? There's something about baseball, even before the postseason begins, but especially so in the playoffs, that tension just builds throughout a game. And whether you score first, there's never enough runs that feel comfortable as a lead, or in this case, if you're down by 3 can feel like 6 or 13. You know what I'm saying? It's every pitch matters, every at-bat matters, and these are things that in April, May, and June, so what if it's a called strike 3 against your guy? It's not the end of the world, and you have to tell yourself and remind yourself that. But here on September 21st, a strike 3 that was actually a ball against your cleanup hitter with a couple guys on, that makes all the difference in the night and in the standings, and it's a huge domino effect. So Dontrell Willis, my co-host tonight of A's Pre- and Post-Game Live, he said it last night. The A's are not in the playoffs yet, but don't make a mistake. These are playoff games to get in. These final 13, now 12, as they see the Mariners 4 times, Astros 3, Mariners 3, and then Houston for the final 3 games. And how crazy is that, by the way? These final 13 games, last homestand, last road trip, all against Seattle and Houston. That's a lot of concentrated games against just 2 teams. And in baseball, when you're seeing all their starters for a second time and you're seeing their bullpen 2 and 3 times in the course of 2 series within, a little bit more than a week, you kind of take away some advantages and disadvantages both ways. I'm not here to say that this favors one side or the other, just that it actually makes it a whole lot more interesting and important to follow every single game, every single inning, so that you know all the backstories, of these last 2 weeks. But tension is real. And I think that's the one thing that baseball fans, they love. It's crazy. They love being nervous, biting nails between pitches, agonizing, pacing back and forth. There is that time in a game, that downtime between pitches, that allows you to overthink everything. And every 30 or so seconds, there's the chance for something big to happen. You realize in a baseball game, there's only actually 6 or 7 minutes of game action, somebody running the bases, a play being made. When you add it up, it's a short time of actual action. But it's all that in-between time, of 3+ hours that just stresses the heck out of you during during a stretch like this. Yeah. Proto, you were talking about missing Piscotti. He does the cheesesteak shop commercials with the hometown hero. Maximo, what's going on? You know what? Look at your avatar right there. I just barely see your head right there. I think I'll do my avatar like that. Sorry, I'm going to move the mic here just a little bit closer. Rotavis, I hope I'm saying that right. Rotavis, you miss Kendall Graveman. Well, you know what? The Mariners miss Kendall Graveman too, because he's on the Astros, and we said it in pregame live, and I think you probably feel this way too. Like, Seattle traded away their closer Graveman to the Astros at the deadline. What kind of message is that to your team that, yeah, guys, we're not in this, we're done? All the Mariners have done since then is made a push. They're only a game and a win behind the A's in the standings. I hate to, fully butter their toast here, but the Seattle Mariners have been an impressive story in these last couple weeks and months since the deadline, where they're at, what they're contending for. Seattle has not been in the playoffs since 2001. And if you look at their roster, and when I say 2001, that's something that the fans think about. The players on this team, half these guys were 4, 5, and 6 years old in 2001. They're not concerned with that so much. They just know that they're this close, and now they want to capitalize. But of course, every fan up in Seattle, they know it's been a long time, and they want to take advantage of a team that is building on something. Maybe they'll even be closer to it next year. But you look at Seattle as I go back to their lineup, Seager, Haniger, Kelnick will probably be the next big thing at some point. You don't have Kyle Lewis in there tonight, but there's a talent there. Don't get me wrong, but we're also not talking about a stacked team top to bottom like maybe the Astros or like the Dodgers, depending on what payroll you want to spit out there. But my point is, they are not littered with big names. That's probably the best way to say it. And yet here they are, against all odds, against some adversity, losing your closer intra-division at the deadline. So, and I also have to say, they are deciding the A's season whether we like it or not. Because the A's right now, going into tonight's game, 4-9 against Seattle. I mean, imagine if they were at least, around 500 in these 13 games head-to-head so far. The A's would be several up. They'd be contending in the wild. I think they'd be on the cusp of the wild card or holding one of them. Instead, they're on the outside looking in and still struggling against Seattle. And I also want to say 4-9, but I think they've lost the last 6 straight to the Mariners head-to-head. And there was a weekend earlier this summer where they took the first game. They lost the next 3 all by 1 run apiece. So it hasn't been lopsided. Don't get me wrong. Seattle is not blowing out the A's, but they've won 9 out of 13 tries from the green and gold. That's, hey, you know what? I credit them, but obviously I'm not thrilled by that. All right, sorry, I went a little bit long there on that one. Oh, yeah, smash that like button, everybody. Subscribe, smash the like button. Do I have it here? Oh, I do have it here. See, I got to remember sometimes I'm not here for all the, promotion in the world, tell you what to do, tell you what channel to follow, all that stuff, or subscribe to. But since I have the graphic up and ready, can I just say, Samuel, you make a great point. If everybody could just make sure you're subscribing and like this video and check out all the other ones that come out sooner than later. I do appreciate that. SPIV, or SPIV? I don't know. How do I think Ozzy Weisblatt is progressing? I haven't seen him in person. Quite honestly, I haven't seen much more than just the highlight clips. Did Starling Marte just go yard? He did. Deepest part of the yard, just left of the 400-foot sign, so almost deepest part. But great for Marte. 12th homer on the year, and just like that, you get a response run. Went 415 feet. So now you're down by 2. We're in the bottom of the 4th. And I go back to That whole feeling of stressing out over everything that happens and every ball and every strike and every play and every error that cost the A's in this one already. But that feels important. Now, I got to say, frustrating because the A's have homered twice in this game, and they only have the 2 runs to show for it. These Oakland A's, they lead all of baseball, and I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. They lead baseball in solo homers this year. It's great on one hand, but that is rough on the other hand. Put some runners on base, and you win five or 6 more games easy out of all the home runs that this team has hit. Okay, sorry. Let's go back to the chat. I'm sorry. Ozzy, I've not seen much more than just the highlights that everybody else has seen. I'm going to wait until at least training camp starts. I know the prospects were having those games against the other division teams. To the point here, I could give you the generic answer and say people like what they're seeing, and that's good. But to what detail and to how soon, what's a timeline for him to, be on the San Jose Sharks? I know everybody's hot on Eklund too. Eklund's probably closer from all accounts, everything that I've been passed along. But you just never know. You really never know. I'll tell you this. I like the fact that we've got names, we've got people identified, names and faces identified as the next wave. And these are not just names because they're there. These are genuine names and players and skills that you get excited about. Because, look, I do feel like the Sharks pipeline got a little bit dry for a while. I mean, there were some players that came up with expectations, but it's one thing to have expectations. It's another thing to come up into the NHL and stick and capitalize and become the next Joe Pavelski or Mark-Edouard Vlasic back in the day. Think about how many homegrown talents the Sharks had that came up, made a difference, stuck, never turned back. And it seems like it's been a while, a couple of years now, since you've had a bunch of new players come up, make that next step. Now, it's not to say it's not happening. Mario Ferraro, Nikolai Knyzhov. I'm not here to say that it hasn't been happening, but just not to the clip that this team needs. If they're gonna partially rebuild from within, every team needs to be thinking about what's happening now and what's happening next. And quite honestly, I'm telling you, that's the way I think the Kings and Ducks in the Pacific Division are going to get good again. I don't know that they're going to go out and trade and manipulate and poach other rosters. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they have to start their next wave, their next foundation with young players. And maybe the Sharks are not entirely in that case, but it's got to be part of what they do in the next 2 to 5 years. Lam, you know what? The A's playoff hopes, you say dwindling, and I think time is dwindling. And if you don't win tonight, we said last night, 13 games left, you probably have to win 9 or 10. Well, if you lose last night and you lose tonight, there goes half your losses that I credited you. Now you're really in trouble. So, to your point, yeah, time is of the essence right now. Uncle Brody, things to do in 2022. Sign Ohtani, and maybe some donuts. You know what? I know the last donut I had because I got some for my son's birthday. That was back in August. It was more than a month ago now. Man, I love old-fashioned donuts. I love all donuts. Like, let me ask you a question here. If somebody handed you a donut and said, you want this? And you were hungry, is there any donut you would actually turn down? For me, the answer is no. I would have any donut. I don't care the frosting, the topping, cake donut, puffy type donut. I don't even care. I will, if I'm hungry, I will literally eat any old donut. But I can't believe some people are picky about donuts. I can't believe it. Biloxi, Bassitt is recovering quickly. In fact, I did a whole bit on this live stream earlier. I think it was probably about 5 to 7 minutes in, which, by the way, was now, wow, about 20 minutes ago. I did a whole thing on Bassitt, so I think you're able to rewind this live stream if you want to see what I said. Otherwise, I will republish that clip as a new video probably tonight or tomorrow. But it's amazing news. It's an amazing story. I just hope the story continues, right? Like, it's not just how something really bad happened. It turned out to be not as bad as we thought, luckily, and then he progressed quicker than anybody could have imagined. Now I hope and he takes the mound and does something that not everybody thought he would do. They think he's capable of it, but I want the story to continue. How about that? The A's with 2 out, getting a little Yan Gomes knock. See, so they're, chipping away at this. Down 4-2, by the way, in the 4th. Yanni, love the production and broadcast videos. What purpose does the Soundcraft serve if I have the Apollo Twin interface? How do I hook up the Soundcraft to the Apollo Twin? So, I know you're talking about my home studio setup, which is nothing like the gaggle of wires and hard drives and stuff over here. Look at the old Stream Deck. Here's what I'm controlling the stream with right here. I'll be careful not to disengage it, but you push a different button. You push that button, I'm here. You push the GoPro button, and I'm over here. And if you want to promote your social channels, you hit that button. See? Pretty nifty, right? And I can control the whole thing just like this. Or if I want to put your question back up, I hit that button. There we go. So the Soundcraft mixer for me, and I know most people are here to talk baseball, so I'll be quick on this. The Apollo Twin X does all the processing of my microphone. That's literally what I use it for, the preamp and the processing. Little EQ, little compression, little expansion. And then the Soundcraft mixer is so I can manually have a mute button. It's also how I can do a mix minus. When I was doing actual Oakland A's pre- and post-game shows from my house last summer, it's how I can create a mix minus so that I can hear the studio, how I can, in my headphones, also hear myself, and then only send my mic back out to the studio, transmit it over the internet, actually. That's how we did it, something called a DeGiro. So long story short, I use the mixer more for routing and controls like that. I can also bring in an HDMI source through that board, and that board goes directly into, I have another one of these at home, A10 Mini Pro. So the audio, all my audio goes straight into this, is the last thing it goes into. So it goes from the Soundcraft mixer to that at home, just in the same way that here, I'm actually using I don't know if you can see it here, I'll tilt that camera down. That's a Zoom H6 recorder. And actually, pretty soon, I actually have some improvements to make here on the audio side with my live stream. I'm okay with how it sounds here, but I don't have any EQ or compression on this mic. So to me, in my headphones, when I'm used to it, now when I don't have it, it doesn't feel right. So I actually am gonna fix that, improve it. Thanks for the question, by the way, Felix. How's it going? It's good to see you tonight too. Glad you're here. James, the A's have been terrible in the division and can't get your head wrapped around why the A's are so terrible against Seattle. And like I said before, it's not necessarily that Seattle's blowing the A's out, but they're winning a lot of games like this, like last night, 4-2, 3-1. Those 3 one-run victories. Now, how about this? The Oakland A's here in the bottom of the 4th, runners on first and second, and you got Canna up. Canna, who couldn't make that catch in left, and 2 runs scored because of it. Now he's up with 2 outs. Hey, think about a long ball right here. Think about what that would do for this game, this series. This is what I'm talking about. This playoff type atmosphere. Again, this is something where in a May game or in a June game, it would be cool if Canna homered here. Now in September, you're like, all right, this, against Marco Gonzalez, 68 pitches in. He's already given up 2 homers tonight. We know Canna's capable. Lefty on righty matchup here. 2-1 count, 2 outs. I don't mean to be doing all the play-by-play here, but this is an important at-bat. All right, Canna got jammed a little bit. Ball went foul. 2-2 count. But to your point, James, Seattle has made a dent in the A's this year. And the other one, which I know off the top of my head, don't even need to look it up, The Texas Rangers won 9 of their 19 games against Oakland. That's far too much. So, like, the A's handled the Angels. The A's won 15 out of 19. But against Texas, they only won 10 out of 19? How does that happen? Texas was pesky. The A's did not shut the door on Texas as many times as they needed to. They took enough leads. They just did not shut the door. 2-2 pitch to Canna. All right, fouling it off. So this must be like at least a 5 or 6 pitch at bat now. It's 2-2, and he fouled that one off. Yeah, and that's right. The last foul ball was the second strike. So he's at 5 pitches in the at bat. Canna is known for this. Taking counts deep, making a pitcher work, seeing what else can happen. Hey, sometimes you get a wild pitch, moves the runners over. Like, the longer you get into at-bats, if you're the hitter, clearly the advantage is yours. Whether there's ultimately a result or not, just the longer you make the at-bat go. All right, another fouled pitch there. So I think we're 6 pitches into the at-bat. I'm going to watch this. Making Gonzalez work. He's now up to 71 pitches. And watching, let me go to your first comment, Tom. Watching the A's get battered by a bunch of 160 Seattle hitters is hard to watch. And watching them get carved up by a soft-throwing Marco Gonzalez is hard to watch. But let me just say to your first point here, Seager and Haniger, man, they are no joke offensively. Those guys are a machine. 2-2. Oh, Canna hit one right to the shortstop, and it's going to be a ground out. Man. One hop to Crawford over there, J.P. Crawford. Unbelievable. He hits that ball 5 feet to the right or left. It gets through, and the A's get at least a run. Laser beam to short. Well, that's going to be an inning, though, the fourth we'll look at, where they could have got more. They got one, but could have got more. Hey, you know what? James, I appreciate you so much here. I'm so sorry. I got to get this up on the screen. Giving $5 to support the channel and skip dinner. Does it look like I've skipped dinner? It doesn't look like I've missed too many meals, James. But thank you so much for the contribution. I really do appreciate that. I did not make a Patreon yet. Somebody else told me to make a PayPal on here, just because of the whole YouTube takes a chunk, and I know people would rather go around that. I would too, to be honest with you. But I'm not here. James, I appreciate this. Anything that anybody gives on the Super Chat, it all goes back into the channel. It all goes back into acquiring stuff like this, like I have, and like I've probably overspent a little bit on sometimes, but to be able to do stuff like this. So I put it all right back into the channel, and I appreciate you for being here on this. By the way, that dog have eyebrows? I guess I'm just noticing that. That is looks very human. James, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Wow, Felix, if I could change anything in the NHL, what would it be? Cap-wise, salary cap-wise, point distribution, rules. Wow. Since you there's 2 things that immediately come to mind. And since you mentioned point distribution, I'll start there. If you're going to keep the shootout, I think what you need to do is have regular season regulation wins count for 3 points, shootout wins count for 2, shootout losses count for 1, overtime wins count for 2, overtime losses count for 1, and a regulation loss, you get no points. Because you cannot reward a team with 2 points just because they won the skills competition of a shootout. They did not win a hockey game. They tied a hockey game and won a shootout. I would begin right there with that. I think that needs to be different. I think that would encourage teams to stop playing for a tie, to get it to overtime, to get at least a point, a points-based standing system. I think it's imperative to make every game worth only 3 points. Not overtime and shootout games get 3 points. Every game is worth 3 points. You win in regulation, there's your 3. You win an OT or a shootout, you get 2. And you're saying, well, why didn't you deserve it if you won in overtime. Well, did you win a 5-on-5 hockey game, or were you out there 3-on-3 playing puck possession back up and down the ice? It's not regular hockey, and that's fine. I like the way games end like that, but don't reward a team the same way for that. And also, there's a big difference between a 1-point night, if you lose in a shootout or lose in overtime, and a regulation win. That's a 2-point swing instead of just a 1-point swing. That's number one. The second thing I would do, Felix, is I would go back to what they did last year out of necessity. I loved to see those 2-game series matchups. Cuts down on travel, which the players like, gives them more off days in cities, which I also know they like. Could give a team a practice day on the road because they don't have to travel. So coaches like it, players like it. I don't see why fans wouldn't like it either. The second game of those back-to-backs, like, they got feisty sometimes. And the 60 minutes prior from, 2 nights ago, it carries over into tonight. Now you got a little backstory. You got a little back and forth. So those are the two things that immediately pop out to my mind that I would love to change about the NHL. There are some others. Cap stuff, money's hard for me to even comprehend sometimes. And, I know you're trying to make it a fair league. Sometimes I think parity is too much in this league. There are too many teams that can beat too many others on a given night. I know the league loves that, but then you don't have like a superstar-laden team, and maybe some fans don't like that. But other sports have had success with, the dynasty-type teams in their leagues. Anyway, so I would narrow it down to that. 3-point games every night and back-to-back games. It doesn't have to be that often, because I understand you're not going to play, if you're out west, you're not going to play all the Eastern teams on the road twice. You're going to play them once home and once road. I love that. Each team plays each other every season. Love that. But how about all the times that the Sharks are going to play the Ducks? Always play them twice in a row. Same thing with Van, Calgary, Edmonton, all the teams in the division. The Kraken now included too. Good question. I like that one, Felix. Who's the best player to don an Athletics jersey in the last 10 years? Obviously, Starling Marte. No, I'm kidding. You know what, Samuel? That's a great question. How could I even quantify that? You got pitchers versus position players. You've got, a platinum glover like Chappie. We've never seen defense like what he's done. And 10 years is also an interesting time span. So we're going back to 2011, which is, when Baumel took over. And you had the whole Bernie Lean team of 12. You had a division winner in 13. You had a wild card team in 14. Were there any Cespedes, a unique talent, Josh Donaldson? Sorry, did I not have the question up on the screen? I apologize. I'm trying to run through and is there an obvious choice? The best player. I don't know that it's out there for everybody to instantly see and say. So how about this? Throw it in the comments section or throw it in the live chat here. Let me see if I can get all the way down there. But I don't know that it's an obvious answer. Let me just say, Chappie and Ole, they're right up there. What Chris Bassitt has done as a pitcher is right up there. Last year and this year. I wish he had a full last year to stretch it out. Who's going to win the NL West, the Giants or Dodgers? Matthew making it very clear who he's a fan of. Look, I'm not rooting against the Giants at all. I think they're having a season that's almost unbelievable to them, too. And I know the A's have been in this position like in 2012. And you were like, let the magic continue. Or when is the magic going to run out? It's a weird feeling when you think you're overachieving, and I don't know that the Giants are. Like, they're pretty well built and positioned to be doing this, and they're getting, the pillars of their team are performing, and so are all the other auxiliary pieces. I'll say this: the team that really surprises me are the Padres, that they're that far out, and I wouldn't say that the Dodgers surprise me. Well, maybe to a certain extent. The Giants doing so, that I think the Dodgers are where I would expect them to be. I did not expect the Giants to be where they're at. So the Giants and the Padres in the NL West are the two biggest surprises. One overperforming and one way underperforming. Big Daddy A's fan, not looking good for the A's. Hey, you know what? Let me just say this. If you're a team down by 2 with the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th to go, like you literally have 5 more at-bats in this game. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you don't, so long as this game stays 4-2, if you think you're out of this game, what are you doing here anyway? They don't think that. But you understand what I'm saying? Like if you're a good team, what happened to the A's of we'll walk it off on you? We'll tie the game in the 8th, we'll walk it off in the 9th. Oakland is the walk-off capital of baseball. Let's get back to that. I'd rather not win that way every time or have to. But that's, I get it because the last month has basically been an uphill battle that everything feels pessimistic to begin with. So I get it. I get the mentality. But if that is the mentality here in this situation, then you're basically done already. My live streams feel like a Manning Brothers broadcast. You know what, Nicola? I have not had the chance to tune in. I've seen clips of it on social. It looks awesome. I wonder if it would be better for them in person. And I realize that there are a lot of very realistic limitations these days and keeping people apart and where they're at, or maybe they just prefer to be apart. Like I'm not coming over, I'm not flying to your house just for this thing. I'll just put on the Zoom or whatever. Because sometimes the delay also plays a factor. If you're not a broadcaster and you're not used to the delay between two people and a signal, it's hard. You'll talk over each other. Anyway, have I had the chance to tune in? So I've only seen bits and pieces, but I can tell you say, if so, some thoughts. Love the fact that it's two brothers. Love the fact that they'll just bring in a guest and be like, did they have Brett Favre on the other day? And I know that they'll just, they will utilize their Rolodexes to bring on, the A-list caliber guests and people who make a difference. And, they are an attraction and they will attract others to being on too. But I think, to your point, Nicola, you said you like the feeling of how it's just fans and watching and talking ball, not the usual play-by-play. So I think one of the futures of professional sports is that you are going to have a traditional game, play-by-play, because a lot of people like that. If I'm over here doing work, I don't necessarily want to have Peyton and Eli not addressing everything in a game because I might miss something. I want to have the announcers of, Monday Night Football calling the game, or like right now, Dallas and Glenn calling the game. I have kind of one ear on that right now. I'm watching it too, but I want to be able to hear what they're saying. Now, I also think, down the road with more platforms and streaming options, I do think a second cast of the game where you could show the game, but kind of what Peyton and Eli and their guests are doing, they're commenting on the game while it's going on, but they're not actually like doing the broadcast. A second experience. I think you're going to see a lot more of that at a lot of levels. At the national level, at the regional level. And it's going to be a whole new thing because now you're going to have, play-by-play and being the analyst, those are pretty set routines. Like those are jobs and roles and people get good at that through repetition. But now you're going to put some jackwagon like me, here doing this. And it's like, it's going to be like the Wild West. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to keep you entertained for all 2.5 hours of a game. And I guess you'd have somebody else joining you, but I'm doing this stream for, answering questions. And I guess that's what a second stream experience could be like, second stream and screen. But I love it. I actually think that's a way of the future in broadcasting. I think you're going to see more of that. And I also think it's got to complement the actual broadcast. I don't think you're trying to take away from that. I think what you're trying to do is gain even more viewers in a second experience and put it somewhere else on a totally different channel so that you're widening your audience. You're not dividing them. You're not segmenting them. You're widening the total audience. Matthew's ready for Sharks hockey. I'll be you know what? I by the time it rolls around, and whenever my baseball commitments are over, I'll be ready for it too. But the same thing I would say if hockey were going on right now and it was April and baseball were around the corner. I want the season I'm in to end favorably, right? I never want them to end too soon to get on to the next one. I'm excited about the next one. How about Sam Moll coming in there and not allowing any runs? But I'm excited about what's next, but I want to finish the job right that I'm on right now. Marte, stay, please. I think you said Marte, please stay. That's a good one. Oh, wow. John Emmanuel Ramos Henderson. Good evening from the Philippines. I love that. I love the fact that you are across a gigantic ocean and you were live streaming this thing straight from San Francisco. So, John, thank you for being here. That's awesome. I don't know what time it is where you're at. Probably tomorrow morning. But thanks for being here. Gotta love the A's. Sure miss Nick Allen, your Olympic shortstop. Yeah, he's playing with the Aviators right now. Did the minor league season just wrap up? Did I see that? I don't know when you're going to see Nick Allen. Sooner, later, I don't know. I'm talking about at the major league level, but I obviously know that he's a big part of the franchise and definitely what is next. Nicola, on the road to 10K. Yeah, you know me well. It's weird. I kind of set that benchmark early 2021. Maybe even like in January. I think, I don't know, there were like 5,000 subscribers at the time. And I said, I want to get to 10. Let's talk about getting to 10. It's hard on, I never really put any effort into gaining a Twitter audience. I just tweeted, I put stuff out there, interacted. I didn't care, whatever, followers, this, that. And some people would say, hey, you have 20,000, 40,000, 60,000, whatever. And it's like, great. I wasn't doing anything specific to gain that audience. But then, and another one was Facebook. Before I knew it, there were 100,000 people on the page. And Instagram, 20-something thousand, but I'm on and off there a bunch. But here on YouTube, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna dedicate some time and effort to the channel, grow it out, see what we can do. And it's funny, like it's just going from 5 to 10, it takes a while. And I think I'm doing the right things. Maybe not. But ultimately, in the end, so long as I can provide the right things for the people that want it, it's all that matters for me. All that matters. All right. Let's see what else we got. Sorry, there's dead silence there. Let me give it some more silence. Make it even more awkward. Oh, here's a good one. El Gore, bring Danny Heatley back to the Sharks. He's only 40. You know what? I'm 42, El Gore. And I honestly, man, I waking up some mornings, I'm like, why is that sore? Like, how did that happen? I give professional athletes who are still going at 40, I give them a lot of credit now, fully understanding the depths of 40. It's at some point, your 20s, things start to catch up with you. And then at 30s, in your 30s, like metabolism jumps in there too. And by 40s, your body's aching in new and exciting ways. So I just have to say that, when I got into covering professional sports, I looked at rosters and said, yeah, most of these guys are a little bit older than me. Yeah, a little bit older. And then at some point, yeah, most of these guys are my age. And then the next thing I know is, I'm older than most of these guys. How did that happen? And now I'm like, wait a second, that guy was born in the 2000s? It happens. Literally it happens, especially in hockey with the young ones. All right. Let me see here. Hey, Brody, I know this isn't really an NFL channel, but how would you get rid of ties? I hate that a professional sport has ties. And, you don't see it. Oh, sorry. Your question wasn't even on the screen. It's Corona 29. It's Corona 2020. How do you get rid of ties in football? Seeing that they don't happen that often is a good thing already. So it's not like a rash of of games that you need to, figure out and make mass changes. But also, do you get gimmicky? Like do you go with each team gets a possession back and forth and put them on like the 35 and then it's field goal or touchdown? College does it that way, right? And then it's like a baseball game. It's top of the first, 49ers with the ball, or bottom of the second as LA tries to equalize. So I really don't know. I wish I had some more thoughts about that. I haven't thought about it long enough. I think the question in any pro sport with overtimes and ties and how do you do that, there's two ways. In hockey and quite honestly now in baseball, it's a bit gimmicky. Basketball. Imagine if basketball was like, yeah, I know it's been 5-on-5 all game, but we're going to play 3-on-3 half court. What? Like, what? Basketball is less that way. Just play 5 more minutes. And obviously, too, you're less likely to hit a tie game time after time. But football, do you want it to be gimmicky? Do you want it to be a field goal kicking competition? Do you want to, give each team their 4 downs from the 10 back and forth? Baseball now putting a runner on second. I like that. People complain about that. I like it because baseball games don't need to go 4 hours and 47 minutes once a week. They just don't. That screws up bullpens. That screws up a lot of things. Plus, how many of you honestly have all that time to watch every game? And it's a lot. I know players are very, serious and they say that the sport without a clock is sacred, but you're also playing for an audience here, not just yourself. So I don't know. But I'm not a big fan of ties at all. Interesting that I mentioned the possibility of turning the NHL into a superstar league. Feel like it's hard to do, especially with being hockey being a different sport than the NBA. And what I meant to clarify is not that the NHL doesn't have superstar players. It's just that there's rarely 3 superstars on one team. I feel like the NBA has a lot of teams with like 3 guys that are part of the Olympics or, definitely going to the All-Star game. So the point being is that there's not like a LA Lakers caliber, or I don't know who else is, or like the Warriors of a handful of years ago. There's not that widespread in the NHL. There's superstars, but there's not like superstar-laden teams. All right. I'm so far behind here on the chat, and I apologize that. Jesus, the A's definitely need to win. One change for the NHL, have a West Division and an East Division like MLS standings, top 8 teams for the playoffs. Matthew, let me just even go one step further. I should have also mentioned this. From last season, I liked that North Division. I like the Canadian teams just beating the heck out of each other up there. And I thought that was fun. That on any given night, you could watch the Leafs and Canucks or Calgary and Montreal. And selfishly, I don't know how it affects the other 3 divisions that there were stateside, if it makes them weaker or better. Like, I don't know you really have to sit there and think about who benefits from that. Like having a North Division, did you make, what did you make better and what did you make worse? And who did you give a better chance to or worse chance? But I'm just saying I like the aesthetics of a Canadian division. I actually think that was really cool. Ryan Clough needs to be on the Sharks staff. How about we just call Dan Boyle while we're at it? Roy effing Kent. Yeah, if you're a Ted Lasso fan, just look at Roy Kent for a while. Go, Dan Boyle. Am I a gamer? Yeah, if you go back to the Nintendo days, I've had a couple consoles since, and I love FIFA. I do love soccer games. I like watching, and soccer's fun, but I love soccer games on the consoles. Any thoughts on the growing phenomenon of esports? Well, if I told you that I didn't understand people being excited to watch somebody else play a video game. I don't know why you're also watching me here talking right now. But in all seriousness, I don't want to disqualify myself, but I get what I get is the participation of being an esports player on a team, group effort. Yeah, you feel like you're in something. Spectating esports is maybe I'm too old to understand it. Hate to say that I'm the get off my lawn guy, but I don't understand. I don't understand spectating esports unless there's somebody performing in a game that's like so much better than everybody else, and you can't even fathom how this person is like dominating the game or their opponent. I don't know if two of my buddies said, "Hey, we want to sit down and play MLB The Show," and just you watch. I don't know. I guess I would, but I would be more interested in talking to them. And I guess that's why while they play, streamers are also, chatting and stuff. And I hate to downplay it. I know it's a huge deal. I'm not knocking it. I know that it's going to continue to even get bigger. It's just not something that is for me, or that I completely understand the allure of right now. Great question, though. Brody, in football overtime, when they score a touchdown, they should be forced to go for 2 instead of the extra point. Oh, okay. So now, Bill, what you're saying to make it more interesting is that there are no PATs. So now we're playing for 6s or 8s. And if I get 6, you can beat me with an 8. Or if I get 8, you got to get 8 to at least keep it going. That's an interesting one. Matthew, I really dove in on the Jack Eichel trade rumors. To be perfectly honest with you, and I apologize, that's a beauty of a picture right there of, where is he? Jumbo? That's a beauty. The hard thing I have with covering sports year round like I do between hockey and baseball is that at this point, I'm so deep into baseball that I just can't completely get into hockey outside of the Sharks. And the Sharks have a ton of their own storylines this year, too. There's no question about that. But I just have not really been able to get into everything else like I will at some point. All right, let me do a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to sign off. I got to actually catch up on my scorecard in this game and prep for a post-game show. We're top 6 right now. I wish the score were different. Oh, looked like Sam Moll picked somebody off there, and they got him. All right. Now we got 2 outs in the 6th. Let me see here. Was there another one I was going to get to? I thought there was. Mariners do own the A's this year. Santiago, hey man, I appreciate you being here too. Thank you for being on the channel. What do you got there in your hand? Looks like you're on a phone. You're on a shoe phone? Is that what you're doing? That's awesome. All right. You know what? On that note, I think I'm going to call it a night. Thanks everybody for being here. And again, just one more time, since you're here, I know most of you probably are, but subscribe to the channel. That would be a huge help to me if you're not already. And maybe tell a friend if they like this type of stuff, A's and Sharks and live streams. You can expect a lot more from me in the hockey season too, as I get some new equipment and streamline some things. So thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you again soon. Good night.